We're joined from the lawn of the White House by U.S. Senator Cory Gardner, Republican from Colorado. Senator Gardner, you were in the room when Judge Neil Gorsuch of Denver was announced as President Donald Trump's selection for the Supreme Court. What was it like inside the room?
It was a very energetic room, and it was an electric moment, and certainly a moment that people across Colorado's four corners are going to be proud of, not just tonight, but for decades to come, thanks to the service of an outstanding legal mind with a sterling reputation.
What are you going to tell your Democratic colleagues who do not agree with Judge Gorsuch ideologically?
I think they have to look back 10 years ago when he was confirmed unanimously by the United States Senate. Senator Chuck Schumer, Senator Dianne Feinstein, they were in the Senate when they approved him unanimously. And if they look over the body of his work over the last 10 years, his opinions, his legal opinions, his concurring opinions, and dissents, I think they'll find somebody who has done a job to be a judge's judge, somebody who has a keen interest in the Constitution, to uphold the Constitution, and somebody who's laid out his reasoning very clearly. Tonight, Judge Gorsuch said that if you're the kind of judge who is pleased with every opinion, then you're probably a bad judge. He has the ability to put his personal beliefs and opinions aside and rule on the merits and the law before him.
I know as a conservative you're probably encouraged by not just the fact that he appears to share some of your judicial philosophies, but his flair for writing, in the sense that he seems like the type of jurist who is looking to bring other people to the table in the mold of the late Justice Antonin Scalia.
Well, if you talk to the other judges or the other lawyers, attorneys who are on the list, the short list to become possible Supreme Court picks by the president, they were all asked a question of what other judge they admired. If it couldn't be them to be the Supreme Court, what judge did they think it should be? And they spoke of Judge Neil Gorsuch. He's somebody very much in the same caliber of writing as Justice Scalia, a very high bar, as somebody who has a keen understanding of the needs to protect the Constitution, to make sure that politics are left to the elected branches of government, that the judiciary is protected by ruling on the law and not making the law. Excuse me.
Why shouldn't Senate Democrats treat Judge Gorsuch the same way that Senate Republicans treated Merrick Garland?
Well, they're apples to oranges comparing those two judges. If you look at the first Supreme Court justices of President Obama, President Clinton, those judges went to the court without a filibuster. If you look at Justice Kagan and Sotomayor and others, they were not filibustered. And so I think it's important to compare apples to apples, and that's the fact that this is a first-term president with his first Supreme Court justice nominee. If you treat them the same as they were treated under President Obama, as they were treated under President Clinton, he will receive a up-and-down vote by the United States Senate without a filibuster.
And Senator Gardner, two quick issues here while we still have you. You've expressed some concerns about the refugee ban implemented by the Trump administration. Are those concerns strong enough that you would consider voting with your Democratic colleagues to roll it back?
Well, look, I support strengthening our borders. I support making sure that we have the vetting in place necessary to know whether refugees coming into this country are safe and not going to pose harm to this country. I think that's important. I do think it went too far when it talked about people who have a legal right to be in the United States, whether that's a student visa or a green card, and that needs to be fixed. But again, I think it's important that we need and that we have an understanding of refugees coming to this country to make sure that they're safe for this nation.
And finally, Senator Gardner, you know, of course, that a lot of your constituents want to be heard on some of the changes in policy implemented by the Trump administration. You recently suggested in an interview that the people contacting your office are paid protesters. And I'm curious whether you still stand by that characterization and whether you're planning some town halls or so forth back here in Colorado.
I've had the great privilege of traveling to all 64 counties across Colorado, meeting with men and women who work hard each and every day to make Colorado proud, to make ends meet. We're going to continue that strong tradition of getting out and reaching out to people across Colorado. We have a plan in place to continue doing town meetings, teletown halls. Just the other day, we reached out to 12,000 Coloradans in a teletown hall. That was an exciting opportunity to hear voices from, in this case, western Colorado and southern Colorado. There's certainly a number of people who are calling from out of state, California, New York. That's happening. There are a certain element who are paid activists through Craigslist. We've seen the advertisements, but we have a large portion, a large percentage of people from Colorado who need to be heard, who want to be heard, and that's why it's important that we have the kind of constituent outreach that we've developed to make sure that we're listening to Coloradans, their voices get heard. What I worry about, though, of course, is paid protesters from out of state who are crowding out those Colorado voices. That's a big concern of mine. It's a concern of my colleagues when they can't hear their voices from their constituents because paid activists from out of state are getting in the way.
Senator Cory Gardner, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. Thank you.